12 traits of toxic women you must avoid. If you're a single man with a busy career or your own business and you haven't been able to find the right girlfriend or life partner yet, and you're tired of only meeting the wrong kind of people, then this video is for you. Today, we're going to be talking about some of the toxic personality traits and behaviors that some women exhibit that you must learn to recognize. I promise you, if you don't watch this video all the way till the end, then you will suffer tremendously and unnecessarily. So, with this cheerful start, 3 notes up front. First one, there's no such thing as a toxic person. Human beings, except for a couple of sociopaths or psychopaths, are not toxic. So when we're talking about toxic, I'm referring to the effects of the behavior or certain personality traits have on the relationship as well as on your mental and emotional well-being. So let's differentiate between the person and the effect their personality traits and the behavior have on you. Second, people's behaviors and personalities are not as rigid as some might like to think. Anybody can change from being a so-called toxic person to being an amazing person if they choose to. The problem is most people don't choose to make that step. And that's why we have to learn to categorize women in their behavior from amazing all the way down to outright toxic. If you don't learn to make those categorizations, then you're going to end up in a relationship with somebody who wasn't right for you. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples here today how I was in a relationship, I was in a marriage with a woman who just wasn't right for me. I don't want to call her toxic entirely, but there were certain behaviors that she displayed that definitely had a negative impact on the relationship as well as on me. And I don't want you to go through the same amount of suffering. But here's a third point. These behaviors do not just apply to women. There's plenty of men out there who are toxic as hell, who are treating women in a terrible, terrible way. Today, I'm just going to talk about the perspective of a man. And if you're a single man trying to navigate the dating landscape, then this video is for you. So, without further ado, let's crack right on in. Number 1. The first toxic behavior trait is easily offended. And I like the definition that I came up with for easily offended. A disproportionately high willingness to interpret statements you make as insulting or offensive. Examples being, that's not funny, you shouldn't make jokes about that, or how dare you. Now, she might just also exhibit all of those nonverbal. The examples I give you for each of those 12 are obviously limited. There's plenty more. I just want to give you a couple so you can learn to recognize it, because most men have no idea how to spot toxic behavior in the first place. Okay? A lot of men blame themselves for not being able to make the relationship work. I should have tried harder. Right? In my marriage. I should have tried harder. No, oftentimes it wasn't you. Oftentimes it's either a lack of compatibility or she exhibited outright toxic behaviors. So the first one, easily offended, right? The opposite of that is you want a woman who has high self-esteem, in other words, who is secure within herself. If she's easily offended, she's deeply insecure within herself, and that makes a pleasant relationship just very unlikely. Number 2, often misinterpreting what you said in a super negative way. So, you're saying that? Are you calling me fat? You say I'm stupid? You know I'm not that stupid, right? You have to understand that human beings have absolute freedom how we interpret certain things. Now, if somebody misinterprets something, like we all misinterpret certain things every now and then in a negative way, and that's perfectly fine. But what's her default mode? Is her default mode to laugh, be happy? And if she's not sure how you meant it, to assume it was meant where it came from a positive place? Or does she assume, no, it must have some harmful and negative and bad intention behind it? If she constantly assumes that you're trying to screw her over, that's going to make it very difficult. That can be outright toxic. Number 3, guilt. She's trying to make you feel guilty. Let's say she asks you for a favor, and for whatever reason you decide to not do her that favor. Then she might say, it's okay, and looks down. Or she might ask you, hey babe, do you want to stay home and watch a movie tonight? And you say, well, I told you that I'm going to go out with the boys. We're going to go like male colleagues, business partners, whatever. You have some other event that you have to attend to or that you choose to attend to. You don't even have to attend it, but you choose to. And then she goes, no, it's okay. You just go have fun with your boys. I'll just be here all by myself. Now, if she says that in a joking way, that's fine. Sometimes girls joke and they tease, and that's fine, and then she laughs and all is good. But some girls actually do that. Some women actually do that. We're like, oh, okay, I'll just be sad and lonely here all by myself. That's toxic. Be aware of guilt. And I say to Fernanda, if you ever catch me making that mistake of trying to manipulate your behavior, and manipulating is technically the same thing as influencing. It's based in physics, they talk about the manipulation of the curve of the ball. Manipulation and influence is the same thing. The only difference is whether you lie or not and your intention, okay? But influencing other people's behavior is basically the same thing as manipulating, even though the intent is different. Intent matters. But I say to Fernanda, if you ever catch me, if you ever notice that I'm trying to make you feel guilty, because I'm not perfect, I make plenty of mistakes, but I want her to tell me, and then I'm going to cut that shit out straight away, right? Like, this video is not just here so that you can look at the outside world and categorize women. Yes, that's the primary aim of this video, but I also want you to become aware of your own shortcomings. All right? Become a nicer person, because I guarantee you've done some of those in the past. I for sure have. And the more you become aware of those, the more you can become a kinder and just healthy human being in your interactions with other people. Be really aware of this guilt thing. And these things often come in such subtle ways. What else do I have here? She might even say, if you actually liked me, you'd do this for me. So, for example, with my ex-wife, it was often the case, and I'll never talk badly about her as a person. I'll never insult her, but I'll give you a couple of examples, because that's personal experiences that I know for a fact a lot of men experience. So she'd say, she'd give me a piece of advice, right? And she'd say, I think you should do this, I think you should do that. And I have a couple of examples later on. And when I don't take that advice, she'd go, you just don't trust me. You just don't trust me. Woman, it has nothing to do with the fact that I don't trust you. I just have my own opinion, okay? And you don't need to make me feel guilty. Trying to manipulate people with guilt is toxic as hell, okay? Become aware of that. And don't ever do that, right? Just ask people for favors. If they don't want to do it, be like, cool, that's fine, you know? Next, controlling behavior. Yeah, this is the example. So it was a sunny day in Ireland many years ago. I was with my ex-wife, and there's not that many sunny days in Ireland, especially not in March or February. So we're going for a walk through the city center, and I know I'm ginger and I'm white, so I burn quite easily. And so she goes, yeah, you should put on your sun protection. But we've only been out of the house for 2 minutes. I said, yeah, I think I'll put it on like 20, 30 minutes because I can take 20, 30 minutes. I like a little bit of vitamin D. Haven't seen the sun in a while. So in 20, 30 minutes, I might. She's like, no, you should put it on right now. I'm like, no, I think I'm good. No, you should put it on right now. Why don't you trust me? Holy shit. And some of you might say that sounds crazy, and others of you are going to be able to relate well to that. But I'm telling you, these behaviors come in very subtle forms. And here's the thing. She didn't speak to me for 3 hours. She refused to speak to me. She was angry at me for not putting on my sun protection. Okay? Let that sink in. And now reflect. Now, little side note here. Just because a person doesn't do what you want them to do, just because you have a conflict with somebody, doesn't mean they are outright toxic, okay? I don't want you to think that either. Oh, he's toxic, she's toxic. No, but there are certain characteristics, certain tendencies that you have to become aware of, and if there's too many of them, or even just a few, cut it out. You don't need to be in a relationship with that person. You don't even need to start dating them. You gotta get much better at identifying these personality traits, these habits early on in the dating process so you don't waste your time. And if you want me to help you with that personally, then simply apply for a free initial consultation call with the link underneath this video. In my coaching program, I prevent clients from getting into the wrong relationship. Even though my job is to help guys find an amazing relationship and get an amazing dating life, my job is 80% keeping guys out of the wrong relationships. Like, David, can I be in a relationship with that person? It's not like they actually ask for permission, but they tell me about a scenario and I say, no, why? Well, because of this, and that. It's not like I actually prescribe it. It's a conversation. And most of the times they recognize, yeah, that's actually not very healthy, the behavior that person that I was dating was exhibiting. So I better not spend time with her. Okay? So apply for a first free call. Next, emotional outbursts, number 5, emotional outbursts towards you, extreme emotional reactions to not so extreme events. crying, screaming, throwing things. Now, here's the thing. It's okay to have emotional outbursts. We're all human beings. And sometimes I may have an emotional outburst, but never towards Fernanda. If something goes wrong, I'm like, fuck! I'm the drama queen in the relationship, but never towards her, right? That's the important thing. For example, if she's writing, if she's doing her PhD, if she's doing her master's thesis, if she didn't get a promotion at work, right? If she had a fight with her manager or something, she's crying. That's okay. We're emotional beings. That's fine. But she shouldn't have emotional outbursts towards you. A friend of mine once told me the story that he went into a supermarket with his girlfriend, and he's like, okay, I'll be back in a minute. He buys himself a chocolate bar, and then she goes crazy over the fact that he didn't buy her a chocolate bar. So you bought yourself a chocolate bar, but you didn't buy me one? She didn't ask him beforehand, and then she got really angry. Now, here's the thing. She was upset about something else. There was some other conflict that wasn't resolved, and he was very good at navigating that, but we had a conversation around that. I gave him a couple of pointers, so he navigated that very, very well. A lot of men would be absolutely screwed because what you do that in that scenario is like you start apologizing. Either you attack her verbally, not physically, verbally, or you start apologizing, and then you mess things up. So it's super important that you learn to navigate those situations in the moment, but I told him, you should never tolerate that. If that ever happens, and that's exactly what he did. He said, if that ever happens again, this is it, right? This is over immediately. You cannot talk to me like that. And you have to have a willingness to walk away. And that willingness to walk away comes from having multiple amazing options available. You can only have the person you're willing to lose. And counterintuitively, when you set those boundaries, women become so much more attracted to you. So much more attracted to you than when you just let them walk all over you, okay? And again, we all do that as human beings. We all, men as well as women, we cross each other's boundaries at times, unknowingly, because we're just so busy living life that we don't even realize when we crossed another person's boundary. So the other person has to make us aware, hey, up until that point, no further. And then we're able to have a healthy relationship if the other person doesn't get offended for the fact that a boundary was set in the first place. Next. Withholding intimacy as punishment. Many of you might think that it's completely normal to weaponize sex to elicit compliance. I'm telling you, it's not. So many men, it was the same for myself. If I didn't agree, let me put it this way. The times I had the best intimacy or I got the most amount of affection from my ex-wife was when I agreed with her on things I actually didn't agree with. When I changed my opinion to please her. And we all know that. And now that in and of itself doesn't make her toxic. But people do that. And they're like, okay, you're not getting sex. It goes from very outright. If you do that, you're not getting sex. Or other forms of intimacy. You're not going to get that for a really long time. We all know the scene in Wolf of Wall Street. There'll be nothing but short skirts around the house. Daddy won't be able to touch mommy for a very, very long time. That's toxic as hell. Okay? That shouldn't be okay. That's not the same thing as her being tired in the evening, not wanting to have sex. That's not the same thing. Okay? So you have to differentiate between is it actually healthy or is it toxic? But withholding it to weaponize sex to elicit compliance and agreement, that's toxic as hell. Next, judgment. If you feel like she's constantly judging you, that's at least a red flag, if not an instant disqualifier with my ex-wife. See, I'm a very loud guy. But the reason I'm loud is my mom is quite a loud person. My mom is a bit of my hero, right? She is a nurse. And whenever I walk through the town she lives in Germany, often, not always, but oftentimes patients of hers come up and say, that's my favorite nurse. And they point at her. And my mom, she's quite extroverted, she's theatrical, right? And it's funny, I used to work for one of those tech companies in Dublin, and my manager at the time, he said, David, you are too theatrical to work on the German market. He did end up hiring me into his team because I delivered a stellar presentation, because I did some really cool things to be able to get into that, so he appreciated the effort I put forth. But I agreed, yeah, it was too theatrical, right? And some people have a problem with that. Now, the problem, it's okay if some customers or clients or people in Germany have a problem with your natural way of expressing yourself. It becomes difficult if that's your intimate partner, if that's your wife. Then you're headed for disaster. So if you feel like she's constantly judging you for things that are just a natural part of who you are, your nerdy hobbies, the fact that you like to go hunting, the fact that you're into personal development, the fact that you work a lot on your business, the fact that you like Star Wars, whatever that may be, right? If she, there's difference between playful judging and teasing. That's not the same thing as actually judging you. If you feel like you're constantly being judged, and it can be subtle looks like, this look is not a good look to receive. Okay, that's a red flag. Okay, this look like, what? Let's have a conversation. Like what's going on there? Right? That shouldn't be tolerated. If you feel like you're constantly being judged in your intimate relationship or by a girl you're dating, right? Because remember, ideally you figure these things out early in the dating process, then just cut that person loose, wish her all the best, and find somebody else. Next, verbal insults. She gets to do that once. She gets to insult you once, and then you tell her, if that ever happens again, then it's over between the two of us immediately. Never do that again. I will never insult you, and you will never insult me. Everybody gets to make that mistake. Like if she insults you once, that's okay. But then you set a boundary and you say, never again. You don't threaten her. You don't become violent. You don't yell. You're just very calm. You say, never again. I'm very theatrical when I'm in coaching and teaching mode. When there's actual conflict between people, I'm very, very calm. Because you have to be. Because you can't be theatrical when there's conflict, You can be theatrical and animated and passionate when things are good and to motivate people and to kick their ass. That's what I do with my clients every single day of the week, or 5 or 6 days a week. But not in an actual moment of conflict. You gotta keep your composure. 9, physical violence. Now, there's a difference between a girl hitting you playfully and saying, you're an idiot, ha 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 ha. That's fun, that's cool, that's her building physicality, that's actually an indicator of interest, that's a good sign. But physical violence, that's it. Like, depending on what it is, right? If she, like Fernanda has never shown physical violence towards me, ever, not once. If she were to do that, I might give her a second chance, depending on what it is. Let's say she gets angry and she slaps my arm. I might say, okay, don't ever do that again. Like, imagine if it was the other way around. She shouldn't tolerate that either, right? And there's plenty of men who are treating women terribly. Remember, today we're just looking at the perspective from a man, because people in society like to talk about how much women suffer, and that's absolutely true, absolutely valid, but nobody talks about the struggles that men go through, right? So that's why we're talking about that here today. But that doesn't take away from the terrible treatment that some women experience by some assholes, okay? But yeah, I saw a video on TikTok the other day, man, where a guy, he had blisters on his back because the girl poured hot boiling water over his back. That's terrible. You don't want that. Like, if she ever slaps you, I break up with her immediately. Like, if she slaps you in her face, that's it. Break up with her immediately. Instantly. That's it. That's where that point ends. Nothing more that needs to be said about that. Number 10, unreasonable jealousy. Now, all women, all people, men as well as women, are jealous to some extent. That's good. You should be. You should be territorial. You should protect your territory. But unreasonable jealousy can be very unhealthy. For example, let's say you go to a football thing with your boys, or you go to a hacker conference. I have clients who are into that, right? Or you go to a business meeting or personal development event or something, right? Or some seminar that teaches dating and relationships, or you attend that online or whatever, right? And let's say you do something with the boys and she gets jealous. Is no reason. If it's really unreasonable, then that's a sign of insecurity, right? If people are really, really insecure, it's not like they're bad people, but they have to heal themselves at least a little bit to make themselves socially a bit more digestible. It's very difficult if you're that insecure to be around you, It doesn't mean we should abandon people, cut them out. No, we should involve them, include them in our tribe as society. But there's a difference between making people feel safe at a societal level, and that's not the same as, okay, no need to get political. That's not the same thing as safe spaces, by the way. I'm not talking about that nonsense. But you don't need to have that person as an intimate life partner, okay? Next one, trying to make you jealous. If she's flirting with other men to make you jealous, that's toxic. Cut it out immediately. Cut it out immediately. If she enjoys the attention of other men too much, you don't want to have a relationship with that person. How is she going to be your wife? How is she going to be your life partner if she enjoys the attention of other men too much? Have you seen the video of Jeff Bezos' girlfriend flirting with Leo? If I ever saw that, if Fernanda ever did that, I would end it immediately. Right? That's it. She'd be free. Go pursue Leo now. Okay? That's fine. You're free to do that now. That's absolutely disrespectful. That shouldn't be happening, It doesn't mean that she can't have a social circle. That's not what I'm saying. But if she's trying to make you jealous, that's toxic as hell, and you shouldn't tolerate that. Last, flirting with other men. Yeah, it was kind of like 11 and 12 kind of tie into each other. If she's trying to make you jealous, if she's flirting with other men, not necessarily because she enjoys it, but to make you jealous, that's not good. Or if she's just generally flirting with other men because she enjoys the intention a lot. Don't tolerate that. It's going to make your life a living hell. And let me tell you something. If you have a woman who doesn't exhibit those, life gets amazingly easy. And some of you might think, these women don't even exist. No, they do. You just have no idea how to use online dating. You have no idea how to create options in real life. And if you want me to help you personally, then consider joining the coaching program in the group coaching format or one-on-one. Simply apply for a first free initial consultation call. I've now helped men from 24 different countries get a better dating life and find an amazing girlfriend and life partner. Either way, whether you join or not, take these things away. And I genuinely hope that one person's life was saved. That one man's life was saved because you're now able to recognize toxic character traits in people that might make you suffer tremendously and unnecessarily. I sincerely wish you all the best.